Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, why don't you, to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And I, of course, am the man that they call Mr. Warren Hayes. And when I say they, I mostly mean my parents who gave me this name. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Thursday evening here on April 23rd, 2020, because we are recording live right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. That's right, recording live. I record the Mr. Warren Hayes Show live every Thursday evening, and I do this in front of a packed house of people who have decided to skirt this other big event happening out there, this thing that has sports fans all excited, this thing called the NFL. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. It's like, it's one of these sports where people actually like hurt each other for real kind of thing. It's a strange world we live in. And apparently there's a draft going on. And I know some of you are watching it as you're watching or listening to me right now, and that's absolutely fine. I appreciate having you all here. I appreciate having Throwback 27 who's here. How you doing, Throwback? Throwback is watching the draft right now. Tim Travers here as well. How you doing, Robert Larry? Welcome, gentlemen. Of course, our boy Benoit is here as well. How you doing, Ben? Who else we got? We got J.S. Brown in the house. One Fall Podcast. How you doing? Welcome to the show. We have Chris Greenlee as well. How you doing? Carlos is in the house. Good guy Dave is here as well. Good to see you, GGD. Jamie Small is here, and Jay's fan as well. How you doing? JK Schwal 03. Just want to throw this out there. Says no better way to wait for the Packers pick at number 30 than the one and only Mr. Warren Hayes. That's right. I am the number one draft pick of your heart. If you are here this evening, I will never let you down. I will always pass that touchdown right into the end zone so that your team can score the touchdown for the 6 points. And then after, I will hold the ball for your punter, your kicker, and to send the ball right through the uprights so that we can score that extra point and therefore win the game or something. That's what I'm really glad you all are here tonight. Thank you all so very much for joining me here this evening. If you're in a good mood and you want to give me a like right now here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes, hey, go right ahead. That kind of stuff, YouTube likes it, so feel free to do so. And if you want to wait until a little later, just in case you're like, hey, no, the show turns out it sucks, you can do that. That's entirely up on you. Or if you're watching this on your own accord whenever you have an occasion, well, do consider giving it a thumbs up. That's a great, simple way to support the show. You can also support the show if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because the Mr. Warren Hayes is available on most podcast applications on its own and as a part of the Smart to Death radio network. Well, do consider leaving a review, a subscription, a like, a thumbs up, a follow, whatever it is you can do to show some love over on that particular podcast app that you have. I appreciate it. Another way that you can support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, of course, is by heading over to my Patreon at patreon.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. And after the show, I will be doing the usual weekly post show just for patrons, patron exclusive for the Power Pal tier members over at patreon.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. Warren is off the clock is what it's called. And I've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. This was a really good week to talk about wrestling stuff, and I've still got a whole bunch of wrestling stuff to talk about. So after the show, immediately after we're done, patreon.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. $5 tier gives you access to the post show and a whole bunch of other content as well. So why don't you go check that out? Remember, tomorrow I'm going to be on the Fightful channel, youtube.com/Fightful, to do the SmackDown post show. And I will, and also don't forget, this is also very important, don't forget to visit belltobells.com for all your women's wrestling coverage, the kind of women's wrestling coverage that you like and that you can do without. Belltobells.com, that's BELLTOBELLES, and do that. And of course, if you want to support the Mr. Warren Hayes Show as we're talking, as we're going along here live right now, well, you can drop a super chat and I will read your question, comment, statement, mood, feelings online, such as Anakin JMT, who dropped a super chat. How you doing, Anakin? And he says, always wondered, what soda is the warm soda? That's a very good question. I've had, as a soda connoisseur, as a soda knowledgeman, I've had soda in all sorts of states. And I would probably have to say that probably the worst type of warm soda is Mountain Dew. Like, I think you can get away with like cola being warm. Root beer is not ideal warm, but it's passable. But I find that there's something just something completely mind-shatteringly disgusting about warm Mountain Dew. I think that stuff absolutely needs to be cool in order to enjoy. Tim Trevor sends us a super chat as well. Thank you, Tim. And he says, got my food and pop. What more do you want, Tim? That's fantastic. Sounds like a good combination for a good evening of foods. That's amazing. But I am glad to hear that you're here, and thank you for the super chat. John Baez just walked into the house, and Wild Boy as well. Wild Boy 87. How you doing, gentlemen? It's good to see you. You're arriving just in time because we're going to start the weekly wrestling inspection. Again, thank you to Ben for the John T theme of the weekly wrestling inspection. Always appreciated. Let's go right to it. And we are going to start nice and proper with some cool beans this week, because we're going to go back to last Friday Night SmackDown, and we are going to talk a little bit about Sonya and Mandy. Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. My God, that was a good segment. Everything about this whole Otis Mandy thing has been spectacular. Sonya comes to the ring. She has a microphone. She says Mandy hasn't been answering her text, so she needs to do this publicly because she's not getting back in touch with her, right? And she says she doesn't understand what's going on. She says we've always been together, from Tough Enough to NXT to Absolution and Fire and Desire. We've always been a team. And here's the thing that I found very insulting. These are all the things that she says that she and Mandy have accomplished together. She didn't mention the donut review show that they had on Instagram. That's a hole in continuity there. That was a good show. Sonya said, but basically Mandy does come out and they sort of confront each other. Sonya says, you've seen the promo by now, folks. She says, you're the most selfish person I ever met. Everything has always been about you. When we'd come to the ring, we'd come out to your music, and I'd be in the back, and because of that soft thing they put around you, you know, that I was always kind of blurred out, trying to share camera time with the Golden Goddess. So that went on. Dolph comes out, tries to bring calm to the situation. He's wearing a Hawkins and Ryder t-shirt, by the way. Nice touch. And he tries to reason with Sonya. It's not working. He tries to reason with Mandy, and he says, come back to me. He's trying to plead with her. Sonya attacks Dolph. Dolph is like, what'd you do that for? I didn't ask you to do this. This was a fantastic angle, and it worked so well. Sonya is clearly hurt by the situation. Her feelings are hurt. She doesn't want this to go on. She doesn't want this to happen. She likes Mandy. She's her friend. Like she said, we've been through so much together. Why are we bringing this to an end here? Dolph, on the other hand, before I get to Dolph. So Sonya, basically here, she's acting out of, she's hurt. She feels betrayed. She says, I'm going to do my best to ruin your life. It's fantastic stuff. And Dolph, in the meantime, here, he's not like instant heel and he's trying to, Mandy, you're a bitch or whatever. Like, no, he still has feelings for her. And Dolph, throughout this whole situation, has been very genuine in how he feels about Mandy, and that's an interesting twist. He doesn't instantly become a villain because he doesn't get the girl. He's like, no, there's something that happened. I want to pursue this. Please come back to me, kind of thing. I think it's great. I love how great this angle has been played out so far, and it's just been getting better. And you guys know it. I was on the record here. I was saying the biggest payoff that this angle can have is to make Sonya Deville a heel, a mega. You have to make her into a star. This is how this whole angle will become fully successful. You got Otis over. Mandy was already over. Dolph is Dolph. Dolph's a legend. There's no reason to touch on him. Mandy was already over. You got Otis over. Time to get Sonya over. And by God, they're on the right track. And look at put the microphone in Sonya's hand. They let her talk. She tore it up. It was amazing. Her promo was expertly done. This whole angle, it's been running since December last year, folks. And it has been nothing but good stuff. Head on over to the super chats real quick. Wildboy87 left a super chat. Thank you, sir. Says, you are just one of the coolest guys ever. I think he's talking about me. Thank you, Wild Boy. Throwback says, the conference call was interesting, bud. That's me. I'm his butt. I can't believe $4 million in furlough. And Vince has to say, when asked what their backup plan is if Full Sail isn't available, he says the states will welcome us, and we have states that will welcome us with open arms. He says, WTF, SMH, why? We're going to talk about our, we're going to talk a little more about it all a little later on. But yeah, I agree with everything you're saying here, Throwback. We're going to talk about this a little later on in the show. We're going to dive into the financial calls a little bit. Oh, yeah. Oh, and Benoit just sent a super chat. Thank you, Ben. He says, glad you enjoy the jingle. If you need more music, I'll be glad to help. Hashtag join Hayes order. Yeah, Ben, you're very, very kind. And y'all should get in touch with Ben. Right, Ben? If anyone wants a jingle, talk to Ben. He's the music man. Not the Billy Joel kind, but still better than the Billy Joel kind. All right, let's keep moving here. Let's give some more cool beans to Daniel Bryan versus Cesaro. This was great stuff, guys. I love this match so much. Again, still over on Friday. Cesaro at some point Cesaro hit a snapmare, but Bryan was maintaining wrist control throughout it all. So the snapmare goes over, and he's still hanging on, clutching on. Cesaro catches Bryan at some point in a cross body block, then sort of ups him over the shoulder and into a backbreaker. It was fantastic stuff. Goes for a pin attempt. Bryan kicks out, then rolls into a sharpshooter. Then Bryan rolls into an armbar. My God, it was good stuff. I loved that Cesaro hit a GTS. He caught Daniel Bryan off of the somersault thing that Bryan does off the top turnbuckle. He catches him, but Bryan then satellites all around Cesaro and into the yes lock. Smooth, very physical, graceful. What do you expect from two of the best wrestlers on planet Earth right now? So there you go. Good job. That was a good match. That was fun. Let's move on to some hot trash. Hot trash. Because apparently WWE now is going back to that sweet well of Elias and Baron Corbin feuding. Now, when I saw that Elias and Baron Corbin, that there was going to be a feud set up for WrestleMania, I was looking at the feud. To me, the feud was saying this to me. And now that they're bringing this back post WrestleMania, this is what the feud is saying to me now. Oh, that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on. We're going to keep some hot trash going. We're moving on to Monday Night Raw now. We got to talk about the defanging of Zelina's group. All right. I was excited when it became sort of official, right? Last week, I was excited, and I warm soda'd it last week, but this week, I'm going full hot trash in on it because as much as I was happy, as much as I was thrilled, actually, to have a stable of wrestlers based around a manager, very old school style. And I thought last week they did a so-so job putting them over. This week they were completely defanged. They were defanged in the opening 10 minutes of Raw when Drew is cutting a promo, Drew McIntyre, who I haven't given much props to as we're moving on, but I think Drew's doing a fantastic job so far as champion, especially considering the circumstances. And she's cutting a promo. Zelina comes out with Angel Garza and Austin Theory, who got a shave, and Andrade ambushes Drew. He was ambushed. But Drew overcomes the U.S. champion Andrade, and then Zelina's telling her two other guys, go after him, go help your guy. And they're like, no. Now I get what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. It's to make sure that we all understand that. Your boy Drew he's a beast. He's a monster, and people should fear him. But Drew comes after them nonetheless. He takes everyone out. Sure, this segment, it was a fun segment, especially the little interaction that Drew and Zelina had. That was great. That puts Drew over as a really strong champ. I get it, but god damn, if this doesn't completely neuter what they were building with Zelina and her group moving forward, no one seems strong. No one seems credible. Last week, Andrade lost to Drew, and then he's back in the ring. He gets ambushed this week, and I mean, it's so sad. It breaks my heart. It really, really does break my heart because this was a throwback. How you doing, throwback? But this was a throwback to it's a throwback to old school managers, old school stables, and I liked it. Just the idea that they're together because they all have the same business interests. Love it. And honestly, it's your U.S. champion that's in there. Why are they making them look like a bunch of chumps so early on when instead they should have given them a little more? I don't know why they decided to throw all three of them up against Drew immediately. I think had they gone through the mid-card a little bit, establish some dominance, then go after Drew, and you can sort of forgive it. But this, man, it's a shame. It's really, really a shame. Let's keep the hot trash going if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Because Nia Jax fought Kairi Sane for a second week in a row for some particular reason, and I don't understand why. Last week there were stakes. This week I think this week it was just to give Kairi a concussion. I think that's why they did it. It was just to make sure that Kairi Sane got in there. Look, the match was garbage. Nia, I like Nia Jax as a human being. I think as a person, she's fantastic. I love what she stands for, what she represents. I think she's a good person. As far as a in-ring wrestling performer goes, she can hit the bricks. She hasn't improved. She's the same. She's the same old Nia Jax, who is a counter wrestler who just stands around and waits for stuff to happen. And then when she actually has to do stuff, she can barely manage to do it without hurting the other person. Now, yes, the buckle bomb was grotesque. Not grotesque. I'm going a little overboard. It was bad. It was rough. It was not good. And when I saw it, I was like, nah, man, that's rough. And I think that's exactly the words that I tweeted out, that the buckle bomb was rough. But then I feel bad for her because then everyone is going to start piling on her. And everyone did pile on her. And it went as far as to say, people listening back to the clip saying, Kairi said, I'm not set, as if she's screaming out, don't do whatever you're going to do because I'm not ready for it. That's not what she was saying, though. As Kairi was saying in Japanese, hanase, which is Japanese for let me go. And then people are like, oh, of course she's saying let me go because she doesn't want Nia to do the move. Now, clearly, logically here, Kyrie is playing up the situation. She's just she's kayfabing the match. She doesn't want the larger opponent to toss her around. I can get behind that. I understand that. That's absolutely fine. But my God, as much as putting Nia Jax in the Money in the Bank match was a good booking move, it is a bad move wrestling-wise because Nia is not a good wrestler. She isn't. She just isn't. She's sloppy. She hurts people. And she gets dangerous real quick. Haven't heard anything about Kyrie being injured. Thank God, because she just came back from a concussion. And I hope it stays that way. Because my goodness. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let's keep some more hot trash going. Oh, by the way, DGMC, how you doing? Jonathan Bahati, how you doing? Daniel Price, how you doing? All these great people joining the chat. Good to see you all. Here's the thing. Hot trash. Excuse me. Let me take a... Because I want to make sure I'm properly hydrated. What the hell was that with the Viking Raiders? What the hell was that with the Viking Raiders? What the hell was that with the Viking Raiders? Did they feel that they were getting a little stale and suddenly we had to make them relatable and have them do some half-ass carpool karaoke mixed in with the B team's old gimmick? What the hell was that? These are not the Viking Raiders I signed up for. I don't want them to be relatable. I want them to be weird and monstrous and violent. I don't want to laugh around with them while they're driving up and down the road in their SUV. That's not what I want. Not from the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders are Vikings, and they run into pillage and plunder and destroy people. They've been over everywhere they've gone. They were over in NXT. I would argue that they were over in WWE. The problem is that WWE doesn't know how to book tag teams. It's not a question of personalities. They have the perfect gimmick to be a dominant tag team in WWE. But no, we have to make them relatable now. We have to, because people, they're getting a little stale and people don't quite understand them. Yeah, we're a bunch of fucking tools, aren't we, to not understand what a Viking gimmick is. My God, the last team that I remember WWE tried to make relatable like that in the same type were the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, when they gave them the fucking puppet, the marionette, the whatchamacallem, I don't remember, Rocco was his name, right? That's the last time I remember a tag team being made relatable like that. And look how well that turned out for Legion of Doom. That was a chef's kiss primo wrestling gimmick right there. My God. My God. But it's time to give a little more. Oh, it's time to give a little more cool beans here. But before we do, throwback with a... Thank you very much, Throwback, for your very, very generous super chat. I really appreciate it. Throwback says, Johnny and Candice heel promo was interesting. It came across as Leave It to Beaver meets Twilight Zone in some spots. Fun seeing Dom, meaning Dominik Dijakovic's tweet to make people laugh. Nyla Nader needs to stop hurting people. Yep, it's 2 people she's hurt. She needs to stop. Oh, she's hurt more than 2 people. She's hurt more than 2 people. And yeah, Johnny and Candice, I'm going to talk about that very, very soon. But yes, absolutely, I agree. Well, I'll touch on that a little bit. some cool beans to Buddy Murphy versus Rey Mysterio. That match ruled. That was a fantastic match. They had such great back and forth. Murphy's fireman's carry into the rolling over the knee backbreaker was fantastic. Man, I love Buddy Murphy's V-trigger brainbuster combination. That is so good. And Ray hits a destroyer. This was a great match, and it ruled. And it's so good to see that it's good to see that WWE is capable and still willing to give us some great matches on TV, because maybe they're taking a page out of Dynamite. Maybe this is what they're learning from watching Dynamite, is just let's put on some real good matches with people who can go. And I mean, this was a lot of fun. I thought this match ruled. Let's keep the cool beans going. Might as well just talk about it then. We'll talk about, since Throwback brought it up in his super chat, let's talk about the promo, which I personally affectionately will refer to moving forward as Candice Eats First. This is to me, this is the big thing here. It was a killer vignette, segment, promo, whatever you want to call it. This was real good. I'm glad that they didn't. I'm pretty sure that had we not been in the circumstances that we're living in right now, if Johnny Gargano and I'm pretty sure that Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae would have cut this promo in front of an audience. Why, Johnny? Why? Why, Candice? Why? Instead, we got them in their intimacy, in their dining room, setting up to eat. And Johnny's saying, we've been good soldiers and everyone walks over us. That's what Candice says, I'm no longer eating second. She prepared a nice dinner for both. And Johnny says, you know what? You're right. You never have to eat second again. What? You eat first. You deserve it. And they say basically, where did it get us being such nice guys, being such corporate faces of the company, carrying the flag, bearing the flag of NXT? We got hurt. We got stabbed in the back by people we trusted. Well, we're not doing things their way anymore. We need to tear down NXT and rebuild it in our image, as Johnny says, as the first married couple to reign over NXT as NXT champion and NXT women's champion. I dig it. I think this was great. The sort of dark corruption filters or effects that they were putting around them as they were getting sort of nasty. I dug it. Like I said on the Wednesday Night Wars podcast, it kind of reminded me, they read a lot of comic books, Candice and Johnny, right? So it kind of reminded me of when Eddie Brock gets overcome by the Venom symbiote, and becomes corrupted. I thought this was super effective. And where do we go from here with both of these people? Well, I suggested last night, Johnny Gargano should go on a tear and take out all the new faces, the up and comers in NXT, those who were in the that I can't remember the name of the tournament that they held last year for all the new guys, like Whackin' Wild, for instance. Just plow through them, establish himself as a strong heel, and then you've got Keith Lee, who's there that they can do stuff with. Again, Throwback mentioned him in his super chat. Dominik Dijakovic made fun of the fact that the cup, the athletic cup that was used by Gargano, to protect his balls, basically, that was given to him by his wife. He made a tweet, saying, "Oh, Johnny was so happy that his wife touched his genitals for the first time. He decided to, put it on the kitchen table. He decided to make it memorable." So that was amazing. That's actually a really good feud. The problem is that I'd like Dijakovic to do other things. I'd like Dijakovic to win matches and establish himself as really strong, because I think for Gargano's character to work moving on, he's going to have to win some big matches winning a match against Dijakovic is a good idea, but I also kind of want Dom to score some wins. That'd be cool because he's been in a cycle with Keith Lee since forever now. Be good for him to move on and to rack up some wins. And as for Candice, man, the division is open for her. Aggressive heel Candice is going to be so good for all of us. She is such a tough, strong female wrestler. I stand for Candice. So if they let her uncork as a heel, it's gonna be fantastic. Want to say hello to Permanent Press and Omar Playa for joining us here this evening. And yeah, there you go. Just making sure I'm saying hello. Jonathan Bahati. No, did I say hello to you, Jonathan Bahati? I don't remember. Well, if I did, consider yourself saluted twice. All right, more cool beans. I got a lot of cool beans. There's some good stuff. You know, I've done a lot of the trash, but being the Elite 200, Matt versus Nick Jackson, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. I mean, they did a produced match. I wouldn't call it cinematic, but definitely produced, edited. This was good. The Jackson brothers fighting at Nick's house. Nick's house. Why did I do a double? Nick's house. The match in and about itself was lighthearted and silly. There were silly parts to it, like when they take the golf cart together to drive just a little further up the driveway, and they're driving and they're punching at each other's face. It's fine. You know, you had the moment where they have Matt's kids looking out the window, and they sort of, and not Matt's, but Nick's kids, you know, they're looking out the window and they sort of close the, I don't remember if they were curtains or blinds. I don't remember. It was fine, but the guys worked hard. They had a hell of a sequence in the garage with all the workout equipment, where they were suplexing each other, which was fantastic. The belly to bellies and the Germans on the lawn. Hell, Matt did his rolling Northern Lights suplexes right there on the lawn, which was nuts. Did like 5 of them. Then Nick does a tornado DDT off the fences. And then goddamn Nick Jackson swantons off the roof through Matt, who's on a table. Like from a gazebo, or I don't know, like a carport. And that was crazy. Matt tries to drown Nick, or no, it's the opposite. Is it Nick who tries to drown Matt? I don't remember. And then they do part of the silly stuff. They do a destroyer off the diving board into the pool, and then they get the referee to come into the pool to count. You know, that's fine. It wouldn't be a Young Bucks match if they weren't trying to kill the business at some point, right, folks? And then they do the barbershop moment, you know, with a callback to Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, but with Matt being Jannetty and Nick being Shawn Michaels. So Nick throws Matt through the barbershop window, and quite honestly, Matt is the Marty Jannetty of the two. If you're asking your boy here. And they even do the "I'm sorry, I love you" spot with Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair. Look, this match was a blast to watch. It was, they worked unnecessarily hard for what this was worth, and at the same time, they provided just enough entertainment for it to be light and airy. I enjoyed this match a great deal, a lot more than I thought I would. Yeah. It was fun. It was just good old fun. And if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Then there's the whole retrospective on everything that they've done, and how BTE was important because it was the 200th episode of BTE. Chat, maybe talk about amongst yourselves, because at the end, the Bucks are in the car and they say, oh, there's that one thing we still have to do. And what's that one thing they're talking about? Personally, your boy thinks is to go fight the Revival, or as they're going to be known now as Fear the Revolt, or the Revolt, I think is what they're going to be called. I think that's what the last thing that the Young Bucks are going to want to do here. I believe. That's just a hunch. I'm not a reporter. This is just my gut talking. Thank you very much, Droz2020, for the super chat. Appreciate it, my dude. He says, Mountain Dew or Pepsi? Oh, Pepsi. I'm not a Mountain Dew guy. I love you on SRS post shows with Alex. Do you have a Patreon so I can subscribe to? Lastly, Shane McMahon punches. Because we were talking about Shane McMahon's punches last night on the Wednesday night post show, where Sean was saying technically they're really good. Technically they're good punches. He just never lands the goddamn things. That's the only thing. But yes, Joes, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. You can check that out. It's also in the link of the description. The link's in the description of the show as well. Thank you very much. And thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Next, some more cool beans. Sammy Guevara versus Darby Allin. Again, another great match between these two. Again, two fantastic stars. If AEW has a long-term plan, has like a 15, 20-year plan, Darby Allin and Sammy Guevara have to be at the base of whatever they're building. These are legitimately two homegrown superstars that they can develop and grow and create into something here. And what is fantastic is that they're not only developing these two stars, but they are developing a homegrown AEW feud between the two. This is something, considering they're so young, that even 15 years from now, if they want to go back to this and say, Darby versus Sammy, and it can mean something. If they decide to go back to it every so often, every couple of years, this is a feud that they can switch on and off because these guys work well together. They have great chemistry. They're coming up at the same time. They're two hungry stars, and they're talented. Did I say that they're good in the ring? Because they are. It was so good. There were a lot of callbacks to their match that they had at Revolution here. The ladder spot was super gnarly. I loved Darby doing the bootless ankle lock off the top rope. And he had a bloody nose at some point, and the face paint all peeling off, usually what happens. And where he was such fantastic visuals. I love the fact that Darby won with a GTS, and he rolled into the Last Supper, that reverse Indian deathlock thing that he does. But he didn't even use it as a submission move. He used it to pin Guevara's shoulders. I think it's great. I think Darby needs a secondary finisher like this. Another thing that he can end a match with, because you don't want him to be doing coffin drops all his goddamn life, because he's going to shorten his career by decades if he does. I loved it. I think it's another great match on AEW. And we're going to end off the inspection with some warm soda. I'm gonna talk about Omega and Angles. I don't know how Chris Jericho was calling. By the way, Chris Jericho, again, such a delight on commentary with Tony Schiavone. They're so good together. I swear, they're not making us miss JR. The commentary teams that they're putting together are too good, and they're not making us miss JR. Anywho, everyone was talking about this match today, and it blows my mind. Last night, I said, and I stand by it, I said on the Wednesday Night Wars podcast, immediately when we were done with the show, without having to go on Twitter and let everyone's opinion sink in, The match went too long. Kenny Omega should be running through fools because he is one of the top wrestlers in the company. He is one of the top 10 wrestlers in the world right now. There is no reason he should be in competitive matches with guys who aren't signed to the company. And the reason for this is simple. If you, as a wrestling viewer, want to care about a wrestler, it is the promotion's business to make you care about the wrestler. Why would I care about a guy who's not on the roster? Why should Engels, who is a talented dude, don't get me wrong, why should I throw my interest behind him and because Omega is giving him a competitive match, making him look good? There's no interest for AEW to make the guy look good. There's no interest for me as a viewer to get behind him either. What AEW should be doing, just like they should have done with Hikaru Shida a couple of weeks ago, is have them win decisively. Decisively. Not necessarily 2-minute squashes. I'm talking about the best wrestler in the world, or one of them, one of the top ranked wrestlers in the company, plowing through undercard twerps. That's my point. Now, to go on Twitter, and I've got people going off and breaking this match apart like it's goddamn Omega versus Okada. And they're going into history, finding footage for back when Kenny Omega showed up at South Georgia Wrestling. What was it called? I don't remember. But the Georgian promotion that Engels wrestles in, and Omega interfered and had everyone hit their finishers on him. It's like, oh, this one has history. This one has a story behind it. It doesn't. It doesn't, because they didn't reference it. This one was overthought and going deeper and deeper into it. And I don't know why. Anyway, and then Dave Meltzer and Ryan Satin started arguing on Twitter about it. And I'm like, my God, guys. My God, in 2 weeks, we will have forgotten about this match. And now they're breaking down. Harley Race back in the 80s, didn't squash guys. He'd have He shouldn't have kicked out of a V-trigger. V-trigger's not a finisher. Who cares? The finisher is the one-winged angel, and no one kicks out of the one-winged angel. I'm fine with that. I'm okay, but V-triggers aren't the finisher. I love you guys. I love you wrestling fans. You guys are amazing. You really, really are amazing. I love the diversity of opinions and thoughts, and we all come together and we agree to disagree. That this is too much. This is too much. The simple, basic feeling that I have about this match, I don't mind Kenny Omega being a nice guy and saying, I'm going to give this kid a couple of minutes so that he can shine. I'm going to give him time. And that's in Kenny Omega's personality. I'm okay with that. And that he is a good guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. But this is not his decision to make. It's the company's decision to make Kenny Omega a star, because when Kenny Omega is good in the ring and starts wrestling like Kenny Omega, like the cleaner, like the guy who was chasing the IWGP championship for 18 months, when he starts wrestling for like that guy, it gets ratings, it gets attention, it gets the fan base excited, because that's what we want to see. We want to see Kenny Omega shine. We want to see him established as a strong, dominating figurehead in the company. Like I said, I'm not saying give him Goldberg squashes. That's not the point. But if they're going to let John Moxley come in and paradigm shift a fool and get a 6-second win on a guy, I don't see why they're letting one of their top stars mess around with an under guy, a guy who's not even signed. Good on Engels for getting screen time and for looking great. Yes, this probably was the biggest match of his career, and he looked good in it. He did well. That's not the issue. My issue is just a question of booking. It's an opinion. It's my opinion. You're entirely you can completely disagree in it, but don't create a narrative around it. Don't create this big story where V triggers and then go and argue about this on Twitter. We're not going to be talking about this in 2 weeks' time. No one is going to be remembering this. My God, people, pick the hills you want to die on. This ain't one of them. I love you. That's the weekly wrestling inspection. Goddamn. Alonzo Smith, how you doing? God. Oh, Jesus. If y'all want to leave a super chat, I'll continue to read your thoughts and stuff, and it's okay. I just have a lot of fun with this kind of stuff. I really do. I really do. You know what else? I have fun. I have fun when the spring comes around. Spring is good. I like spring. I'm not a winter guy at all. I dislike the winter. I dislike snow. When spring comes around, it sort of it creates good feelings, renewal. And then you get into spring cleaning. I don't know if you guys do some spring cleaning. I get into some spring cleaning. And I think, with social confinement, I think there's a lot of people who are going to start spring cleaning at this time of year, right? And it's normal. It's normal. You're looking for stuff to do, right? So you're going to start spring cleaning, moving stuff around, and, just get everything nice and cleaned up. But what about spring cleaning for your balls? Huh? They spent the whole winter getting stuck to your thighs and getting all salty and pasty. It's time to refresh. It's time to spring clean your sack. And we're going to do this thanks to Manscaped. Manscaped promotes hygiene when it comes to shaving your balls thanks to their Lawnmower 3.0. Manscaped, in fact, is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming. While you're, while you're moving your bed and cleaning under your bed, getting all the dust bunnies there, well, what about the dust bunnies hanging off your genitals? I hope you don't have. But it's a figure of it. It's imagination. Make Manscaped part of your routine as well. Manscaped is forever changing the grooming game with their Perfect Package 3.0. Yes, I'm pretty sure they gave that name intentionally to it. It's precision. The Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0 contains precision engineered tools for your family jewels. And this kit comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0. It's a waterproof cordless body trimmer, and it comes also with a ton of other liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. This third generation trimmer right here features a cutting edge ceramic blade to prevent manscaping accidents. Millions of balls are about to be nick free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin safe technology. And inside the Perfect Package as well, you'll also get the crop preserver. Is this it right here? No, that's not the one. This is the crop preserver. Wait a second. Yes, it is the crop preserver right here. And you'll also get the ball deodorant and moisturizer. It's fantastic. It's time for spring to make your peen pristine. Subscribe to the Perfect Package and get a new replacement blade refill for your lawnmower trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months, making sure your trimmer stays fresh and clean. And for a limited time, subscribers get not one, but 2 free gifts. The Shed Travel Bag. Look at this thing. $39 value add. And it's a good bag. It's really good. Plus, you also get patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs. Again, I'm wearing them. Are they the same briefs that I was wearing last week when I was doing this spot? Yes, they are the same. Did I take them off and clean them in the meantime? God, yes! What kind of gross weirdos do you think I am? This is the perfect package for your perfect package. And as viewers, listeners, enjoyers of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, I have a deal for you. You get 20% off plus free shipping if you order your Perfect Package 3.0 today over at manscaped.com using the promo code Warren. That's all you need to do. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Head over to manscaped.com, get the Perfect Package kit, 20% off, free shipping using promo code Warren. And I want to thank Manscaped for their support of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I really, really do appreciate it. Throwback left me another super chat. Warren's on a roll. Good to see the passion about this stuff. Gronk stole the 24/7. He did, though. He's holding it hostage for more money. We've seen that happen before. We've seen that happen before with Ric Flair and Jerry Lawler leaving with the titles holding up the promoters for money. It's a trick as old as the business itself. Grob Brandalski, 24/7 champion, and he hits the bricks. My God. The prestigious 24/7 championship title held by such luminaries as Riddick Moss. All right, today was the main event. This was something that happened today that a lot of people were excited and looking forward to. Talking about the WWE financials call. That happened today, and it was one that a lot of people were looking forward to. Off the heels of those firings that happened last week and the questionable decisions that WWE has been putting forth this day, these days, we were really looking forward to the call. I was able to listen to it. I was also following Brandon Thurston. Brandon Thurston is the man that you all have to follow when you get these when we get WWE calls. Brandon heads WrestleNomics, which is a website, it's a web publication devoted to the economics of professional wrestling, and he's been following WWE's finances for years at this point. So he's a solid guy to follow. So I want to go through a few things because there's obviously a lot of stuff that happened in there. Vince McMahon was there on the call, as well as Mr. Riddick. His first name just slips my mind right now, but the interim CEO, I think, of the company, or CFO. Good job, Warren, getting prepared for this. But he was on the call. A couple of other people were on the call as well. But basically, if you want to listen to it and you want to listen to a little of what Vince McMahon sounds like when he's completely deluded, just like completely off his gourd, and like when people say, "Oh, he's in a bubble," he lives within his own bubble. It's when you hear him talk, sometimes it's true. It's really, really true. But anyway, there is some very, very interesting information that came out. Came out of this information here, out of the entire call. First and foremost, WWE outperforms consensus analyst estimates on revenue and net income, and that's something remarkable. Basically, meaning that that they are exceeding all projections that were made by people who are in the business, who are in finance and follow this kind of stuff. So they're going above everything. And this, remember that all the financials here, right, don't include the cost-cutting measures that they set in last week. That'll be factored into their quarter two financials. So we're just focusing on the first quarter, which is January, February, and March. WWE basically had a 60% increase in revenue in Q1 as opposed to the same quarter last year. That's nuts. And of course, it has to do with the Fox deal. Of course, that's how it goes. But a 60% increase. That's crazy. WWE also touts that the network subscribers for WrestleMania this year exceed last year's Mania, but on a closer look, that includes more than twice as many free subs as last year. Paid subscribers for WrestleMania were down from Mania last year and the year before. So more people going in for the free trial. Vince McMahon said, it said at some point, is like, probably people are getting sick of watching Netflix on the time and they want to see muscle men running around in their underwear. That's exactly what he said. KPIs show that North American, that means Canada and the US, North American average attendance in quarter one was up from other quarters, but as far as live events go, but that's still less than half the number of events. So they've been running less shows. Only 41 shows were run in the first quarter as opposed to 90 and 99. So even if you factor in arenas starting maybe to shut down and people being a little more iffy about going to shows in March, that still doesn't account for the fact that they essentially slashed like half the amounts of live shows that they were running. They gave some precisions, some details in regards to their COVID-19 actions and outlook. This is stuff that they had already relayed in the past, saying that due to COVID-19 and related government mandate and impacts on WWE moving forward, the company has implemented various short-term cost reductions and cash flow improvement actions. These precautionary measures include reducing executive and board member compensation, decreasing operating expenses, cutting third-party staffing, consulting, and talent costs, and reducing employee headcount by way of furlough. To enhance liquidity, management deferred spending on the company's new headquarters, reducing their 2020 capital expenditures by $140 million because, as you may or may not know, I'm not going to assume that you know, WWE is moving from Titan Towers, essentially, where they are in Connecticut. They've got a brand new facility set up, and they were supposed to move this year, so they're deferring spending. So basically, they're postponing the move, and temporarily suspended the repurchase of stock under its $500 million program and drew $200 million from its revolving credit facility after quarter end. Management continues to I'm not an economist. I don't know what all that means. Management continues to believe the company's growth prospects will remain strong and that WWE is well positioned to take full advantage of the changing media landscape and increasing the value of live sports rights over the long term. And here's what's interesting. Frank Riddick, there we go, the interim chief financial officer. I got my act together. MrWarrenHayes. Manscaped.com, code Warren. Frank Riddick quoted in the press release, he said, in the quarter we delivered revenue of $291 million, exceeding our rescinded guidance as we offset the impact of canceled events by reducing production and other costs. $291 million just in the first 3 months of 2020. Given the current uncertainties of the potential impacts of COVID on our business, we have reduced employee talent and other costs and delayed approximately $140 million in capital spending related to our new headquarters to strengthen our financial performance going forward and ensure we have the resources necessary to execute our value creation strategy. Now, despite higher North American average attendance, Royal Rumble in a stadium and fewer events, the live events division was still unprofitable, losing $3.2 million in operating income, which is worse than the loss of $200,000 in last year's Q1. Revenues for live events declined from $17.5 million to $17.5 million from $26.2 the year prior. Yes, there were less shows. The reduction in ticket revenue was driven by the staging of 49 fewer events, resulting from the company's efforts to optimize its touring schedule and, to a lesser extent, COVID-19 related impacts. I think the blame on COVID-19 here is a little fishy. I mean, they use it as an excuse, but I don't think it not fishy like they're trying to defraud or anything. I just think it's a little silly. Average attendance at these events increased 33% to approximately 6,320, while the average ticket price of $53.46 was essentially unchanged from the prior year quarter. There were no Raw or SmackDown events held in international markets during the quarter. So that's really interesting. That's really interesting. So live attendance increased. Less shows, ticket price average, pretty much the same. As they mentioned here in their key highlights, during the quarter, WWE continued to stage successful large-scale events, including Royal Rumble, which was performed before a capacity crowd. I love the fact that they put capacity crowd in their official financing statements. Vince, this is Vince dripping down onto this. Before a capacity crowd of more than 42,000 fans at Minute Maid Park in Houston, and Super Showdown in Saudi Arabia. Core content fees, basically talking about Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Their TV deals were at $133.2 million, slightly lower than Q4, which is surprising, or at least Brandon Thurston pointed out that it's surprising to him since the fees are believed to be escalating over time. That was the assumption that we had, that the license fees that WWE has with Fox and so on and so are supposed to grow, but here they've come down a little bit. So Brandon finds that suspicious, or not suspicious, but weird. And he'll probably have a little deeper analysis on this. My gut feeling, they're probably cutting back a little bit because of COVID. They being the networks. Network revenue was down last year's Q1 due to an average network, talking about the WWE network revenue was down from last year's Q1 due to average paid subscriptions being down. Merch sales are down, of course, since you're doing less live shows, but also online. People are not buying as much online as they used to. But let's be transparent with each other, folks. I'm not buying a $40 Bray Wyatt t-shirt, and I love Bray Wyatt, and I just recently got a Bray Wyatt t-shirt, but I went till it got on sale. It was $15. There's no way I'm paying for a $40 wrestler t-shirt. By God. As we're moving forward here, also, WWE declines to give Q2 or full year 2020 guidance. Now, what is guidance, Warren? That's when basically your CFO, your team, the executive team, sort of set the stage and say, well, these are our projections. This is where we think we're going to be in Q2, Q3, Q4. These are the targets that we're going to try and hit. But WWE is refusing to do so because of the COVID environment, which is COVID-19 environment, which is extremely unprecedented, strange, and they're not quite sure how it will affect the business. So they're erring on the side of caution. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends, because as a publicly traded company, you kind of want to have the reassurance that your money is being well invested. But hey, you know what? At the end of the trading day, WWE stock was up 7.5% at the end of the day. So I don't think it bothered investors all that much. The company believes that the potential of COVID-19 may not be limited to the sale of live event tickets and merchandise, and the adverse impacts on other areas of operation are not known at this time. So they're erring on the side of caution. Of course, it gets interesting when they start diving into questions, right? When they start taking questions from investors who are on the phone. Are media partners reevaluating partnerships? So this might be referring to the pay-per-view rights that Vince was saying, yeah, pal. Remember at the last call that they had in January? Yeah, pal, this is going to move really fast. We're going to get our pay-per-views, our premium content. We're going to start moving that around. Riddick fielded this question, and he said they have their own issues to deal with in responding to COVID-19. It's not that they have a lack of interest in the product, they being their partnerships. It's not the case. They're just reevaluating because they're not making any money either. They were also asked a question: what does WWE look on the other side of this? And Vince McMahon answered. He says, "I don't know that we're going to be in the." This was very interesting. I don't know if we're going to be in the live event business as we were before. We're ready if we're allowed to, meaning if the government opens up stadiums, we're ready to go. But I think it's going to take a while for consumers to come forward and want to be put in an arena with 70,000 other people. If anyone can figure it out, we will. I think it's going to be more content oriented. That's something interesting that Vince said. He also talked about doing mini movies. He said, we might be doing that. But Vince basically saying here that our our business is going to shift. We necessarily are going to have to do other things here. And he says, not in the term of live events, more like social and digital media. So that's really interesting. Vince leaning heavily into content and saying, this is how we're going to have to approach our things moving forward. Not sure if we're going to get back into live event business really, really soon. Another question that came up was, is there any risk we need to think about that your broadcast partners say, this isn't the product I paid for, with there being no live audience? And you guys know this has been speculated by a lot of wrestling outfits out there saying, well, I hear Fox on their contract require live content from WWE, and that's why Vince wants to do live content. Well, another person will say, I don't know if Fox is asking this, or USA. We don't know if there's a proviso in there in the contract. So Vince basically came over to answer that. And he says, our partners are not doing as well as they'd like to, nor are we. In terms of the content, they totally get it. They're lauding what we're doing. We have a great relationship with both partners. They have our backs as we do theirs. So he didn't say that they're not living up to expectations, that contractually they're obligated to do live content or not. But he did put over the fact that their partners are happy with what they're doing. They're suffering as well, but we're pushing through. We're giving them content. They're happy about it. But again, I think the whole thing that, Vince absolutely wants to do live content because Fox requires it. They'll be sued by Fox if they don't provide live shows. I think it's a little bunk. I have always thought it was bunk. I'm sure these contracts have loopholes or provisions that would allow WWE to be like, hey, force majeure, guys. The government's not letting us put on live shows. What are we going to do, kind of thing. It's not our fault. But still, a very interesting answer here from Vince. Okay, so here's a question that was really, really interesting, and I don't remember from which institution this was asked, but I thought it was really, really interesting, where the person was asking, your cost cutting seems really, really aggressive, and yet you're making a lot of money. And I'm paraphrasing here; he's not exactly saying it like I am right now. You're cutting back a lot. You're making a lot of money. Are you guys just being conservative, or is something more dour happening? Meaning, is there something we should be aware of? Something we're not quite, you haven't clued us in yet. And Riddick said that overall, we are concerned about uncertainty and the impacts of government regulations and societal behavior around COVID-19. Since we don't know, and since there's a lot of uncertainty, basically, we felt the need to be overly cautious. Yes, he says we're being very, very conservative. But I mean, goddamn, very, very conservative. They just nailed a record quarter, a 60% growth as opposed to their same quarter in Q1 2019. That's bananas. That is absolutely crazy. Just to wrap things up, there's one last question that was asked, which it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect from top to bottom, joyful and infuriating at once. There's an investor who asks, how's talent morale going? Are you guys setting everything up to have some tests? How is your staff handling this? And Vince goes and he says, wow, we're doing everything we can to set everything up. When people come in, we're very conscious about how many people are coming in and out of the buildings, and they have a form they have to fill out. They have a form every week. They have to fill out this very lengthy form. They have a form, Vince. This is your testing process. This is what you're telling us. We have a form that people have to fill out. And that way we're safe. Then we're okay. Then we know that they're fine. A form? And then he starts saying, and they're cleaning off with all this, the Clorox 360. Bawling. I'm laughing because it is the most Vince thing to be saying, right? And then he's like, Paul's on the call. He throws the Triple H and he says, Paul, why don't you tell him more about the precautions that we're taking? And Triple H jumps on, and he has a perfect answer. He's an operations guy, right? He's on the field, so he's like, yeah, we're working with this company. They have this spray, and we're doing this, and these are the precautions and the measures that we're taking. And I'm just laughing so hard because Vince is completely clueless about the whole COVID thing, and it's clear he's saying we're using Clorox 360. And then Triple H is like, no, we're working with this very serious firm to disinfect everything in the PC, and everything's kosher, and don't worry about it. And I thought it was so good. But you know what happened then? Is that the whole morale question was skirted. They never talked about employee happiness, how morale was. Vince bumbled through the tests saying, we got a form and we're bleaching the place up. My God, we got ourselves some rags and some bleach. We're making sure no one's getting sick. Then Triple H is like, I know we're doing a little more than that. Oh, that's fantastic. And Throwback leaves another super chat. Thank you, Throwback. Says, shake my head. Robust. They feel like everything's going well is robust. Hey, Vince, are you calling us fans fat? Yeah, because he called the fans. He says, our fans are very robust. And Throwback is like, man, robust. You calling us fat? It was what it was, right? But it's very fascinating, and I can't wait to continue to read up on it from people who have a better grasp on economics than I do. This was a super, super fascinating call. So there's all sorts of notes out there. You've got Fightful, who's got a full report up. Our boy Carlos Toro got everything set up, and Brandon is going to be doing the media rounds probably tomorrow. He's going to be on podcast. You should subscribe to WrestleNomics. It's fantastic stuff. Brandon really is the level-headed friend, that's like, while the rest of us are screaming about Kenny Omega and his squash matches, Brandon's like, yeah, but WWE in 2020, if you hit these precise KPIs in regards to Obita, and look, I can't even use the jargon properly. Follow Brandon. That's fantastic. But it was a good call. Very interesting stuff that comes out of it. The Q2s will be very, very telling. Clearly they're padding for the uncertainty that's coming up, but by God, $219 million in revenue. And you still feel like you can fire a bunch of people. Fire a bunch of people in a context where they don't have any alternatives. They can't go work anywhere else. That's the thing. That's the really shitty thing about it. That's the one thing that everyone has to sort of sympathize with. Mike Bennett last year asked for his release. They double down on him, give him twice as much money, say, we're going to give you a contract for 5 years. We're locking you down for 5 years. We're going to use you creatively. And they don't. They didn't give him his release. They negotiated him back in. And then they finally do release him in the middle of the pandemic when he can't even work. It's shitty. It's just, anyway. I talked about that last week. We're not going back. And one thing they did announce as well is that WWE 2K21 is not going to happen. This was the last question that was asked. And Frank Riddick says that, no, there's no launch year. There's no launch for a yearly game in 2021. And after the fiasco of 2K20, would you launch a game this year? Especially in this context? My God, no, man. It was a disaster, and it would be twice the disaster this year. And, I was talking on Twitter with Garrett Kidney. I don't know if you guys follow him. He has a podcast on the Voices of Wrestling Network. He does their Wednesday Night Wars podcast. Plus, he's a gamer as well. He has a YouTube channel devoted to gaming. Smart guy. and we were talking about the 2K21 not being released, both saying it's a good move, it's a smart move, and he said it's a doubly smart move, and he made me realize this. It's a doubly smart move because there's hardware changes coming this fall. We're getting a new Xbox, we're getting a new PlayStation, and every time there's new hardware, you have to upgrade your engines to the new hardware, so it could have likely been a very fiddly edition of the 2K series, of the WWE 2K series. Would have been very, very strange. Very strange. Could have led to even more problems. So it's probably a good call to not bring it out, if only on that basis right there. And honestly, yeah, like, as a guy, I partake in video games. I enjoy them. I don't enjoy the 2K series. I think it's unresponsive. It's not competitive, and of course, well, the last edition was broken. But I never thought it was. It hasn't been a fun game in a long time. It's a creator suite dream, but it's a $60 creator wrestler game is what it is. I would give it a rest this year, and I'd try to come back with a 2-studio model, kind of like what Activision has going with Call of Duty, where every other year, where they have 2 studios working on different strands of Call of Duty, and every other year, it's the other studio's Call of Duty that gets released. So instead of having 1 year to release a game, to develop and release the game, they have a 2-year cycle, which I think would benefit everyone. If they're working on the same engine and can use each other's assets moving forward, I think it's a good idea. I think it's something that would definitely benefit the 2K series, especially if they want to mix it up a little bit. Maybe you have like 2K once, in a certain style, and you have another style of 2K, like they do with, like you have Black Ops and you have Modern Warfare. Same basic core gameplay, but different approaches to it. Maybe one of them could have a full-on GM mode. I miss GM mode. I think that's something that should be really, really... yes, I said duty. My God. You guys are 11. So I think that would definitely be a benefit for the series. Maybe that's something that they could kick off moving forward. And and then people started getting really bothered. It's like, what? No WWE game, no wrestling games this year. This, I think, would be the first year since 1995 that there wouldn't be a yearly WWE game put out. That's a hell of a run. I think it's 1995. That's crazy. It's a hell of a run. And I think it's okay in the context to take a break. I think that's okay. Because of COVID, but also because 2K20 stank up the place. I think it's okay if they want to just let it go. But we're not stuck without video games, wrestling video games. There's Fire Pro that's out there and is living on all platforms and is a lot of fun. Retromania is coming out later this year. From Retromania Wrestling, right? Indie game that's going to be released on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and they're building up a roster, right? They're building up a roster of players, of wrestlers in there. You've got the Road Warriors that are there in there. You've got the Blue World Order. Stevie Richards, Blue Meanie, Nova, Colt Cabana's in there as well. Jeff Cobb, Nick Aldis, Warhorse, Zack Sabre Jr. And apparently they still have more to announce, and there's going to be DLC, so that should be fun. And AEW said that they're working on a game, but they're taking their time in developing it because they want it to be good, and I think that's fair. So maybe not 2020, but down the road, it'll be fine. Hey, we're not stuck, and it's not the end of the world. I would much prefer the 2K series to get back on track and come back with something really, really interesting, because I'm done with the gameplay. I never thought it was a fun game to play. A lot of button mashing. It's not fun. It's fun to design your characters. It's fun to to design your wrestlers and then import other creations. That's a blast. Create your arenas. But once you get down to the core of the reason why you buy it, which is to play a wrestling game, bleh. Bleh. There you have it. A lot of WWE talk tonight, but we're going to wrap it up nonetheless. Mm-hmm. We're going to wrap this one up, folks. Remember, in just a few minutes, I'm going to head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes to do the post-show Warren is Off the Clock. Going to be talking about a whole bunch of things I didn't have the opportunity to talk on the mainstream here tonight because there's more wrestling stuff I want to talk about. I want to talk about Dana Brooke. I want to talk about Dustin versus Kip Sabian as well. Come on over. YouTube.com/MrWarrenHayes. It's at the $5 tier. Power Pal. It's a good time. Come and enjoy it with us. Because, yes, there are live people who are there as well. Otherwise, don't forget manscaped.com. Promo code Warren. Get yourself 20% off of their products and free shipping. You know you want it. Come on, what are you waiting for? It's a good time. But I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening. I want to thank a special thank you to everyone who contributed this evening with some super chats. That is much appreciated. Very humbling at the same time. But I'm always humbled by all your presence here. Hope you enjoyed the evening. Hope you enjoyed the talk. Hope you're enjoying the NFL draft. You marks. I'll see you next time.